roundtable professionals in the real estate industry is more about business, but it's also trying to help the generation coming, and also to ensure that as much as possible, some of those stories we think are just normal to us, we don't realize that it does a lot for others. So it's basically just impact, vulnerable conversation.
You don't have to be the starter or the founder to have fulfillment. You can have your own vision in the vision that somebody else started. Once there can be some level of respect on both sides, and everybody has their part to play. You would bend here, the other will bend there, and you decide that is the long-term vision bigger than my temporary discomfort.
Hi guys, you're welcome to the Roundtable once again. It's that place where we have that conversation with business owners, real estate professionals. We have a soft spot for real estate. Today I have a guest, a longtime friend, one that is a confidant, somebody I talk to whenever it comes to anything construction. His name is Tope Runsewe. He is the CEO of Dutum Construction. And just stay tuned and listen to all the things that we'll have for you today. Hi Tope, how's it going?
Very well, thank you, Jide.
Yeah, Tope, so quick one. I think I've told you about this before. The roundtable is just for basically those young professionals and people watching from outside, trying to understand what's happening in the real estate industry in Nigeria, trying to understand business generally, lifestyle, nuggets, people that have been there, done that, their experience, how it can help. We realize that some of the conversations you and I, or just we have regularly, I just realized from a conversation we're having that some people that were listening into it now realize they were learning from it. Meanwhile, when we were talking, it was just normal stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what just brought about this, because look, yes, there are podcasts everywhere, but the whole idea behind this is that when we started seeing that happen, they're like, why don't you have this conversations so that we can hear them? So that's why it's going to be very, very normal stuff, our normal gist, basically. So Tope, I think where we'll start from is you've been in the industry for a while. You've seen a generation change in the industry. I know Dutum has started like a long time ago, but for the sake of those that are listening, just give us a brief history, how it started. I know there's been some public projects for the government. I know you've done private projects, so you can even give us a light of how that happens on both sides. But first of all, just like an introduction, let's know who you are, let's know what you do, let's know what Dutum does and the history of Dutum, basically.
Thank you, Jide. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. So Dutum is a 35-year-old construction company. My father started in 1989. Wow. I joined the business about 16 years ago. That was 2009 now. Yes, 16 years. I studied in the UK, came back, decided that what I want to do is to build on our family business and show that we can build transnational businesses.
Yes.
So while there was a myriad of things I could be doing, I decided I want to take this on. And that is what I've done primarily for the last 16 years. So historically, we started off as government contractors, building roads for mostly state governments in the southwest, because the company started in Ibadan. So at that time, when I came back, we were building roads in Oyo State, in Ekiti, in Lagos, in Ogun, and probably in Kogi. I think about around 6 states, and Osun.
Wow.
So it was just government work. And so when I returned, I said, look, where do I want to go? So I decided to choose Abuja, because Abuja was the seat of federal government. So
yes.
look, let's also start doing some federal work.
Yes.
And we started, and I continued in that government path for maybe the first 5 years of my being in the business, and then I started asking myself a lot of questions after that, and thought this government thing, I'm not sure is sustainable. While we can do it, I don't want to build my entire business on it. And so we started pivoting into private sector. At the time, we were like 100% government. All our business was government. Today, we're 95% private, 5% government.
So that's a total switch.
A total switch, complete switch. And the reason for that was very clear. Getting government work was, it's just who that's the same in private to an extent, but there's some, semblance of merit and, capacity and competence that comes in the private sector. And then, of course, there were other issues, delayed payments, all the things that come with public sector. And I just came to a decision that this wasn't the path that I wanted to go long term. And so we started doing private work, and right now, we build residential, we build industrial, we still do infrastructure, but very selective in the government institutions that we work with. Once we see capacity, we see seriousness, then we're able to work with them. But other than that, we're good in our private sector for now.
Perfect. So that's the switch. I mean, you can tell that you championed that switch. One of the things that caught me from what you just said now is that generation. Because a lot of businesses can't stick after one generation.
Yeah.
So that's one thing at least we've seen from here. So were you really, when you have your own ambition and you have your own plans and you have your own, did you struggle with anything like that?
So definitely, but I made a statement in a talk a couple of weeks ago that you don't have to be the starter or the founder to have fulfillment. You can have your own vision in the vision that somebody else started. Once there can be some level of respect on both sides, and everybody has their part to play. You would bend here, the other would bend there, and you decide that is the long-term vision bigger than my temporary discomfort? And because yes, there will definitely be those moments. And as someone who is a leader, there's generally a drive to want to do your own thing.
Yes.
But we don't all have to do our own thing. Like, by that I mean, I'm doing my own thing in what I'm doing.
What you're doing.
So you create your own thing, get your identity, and once there's buy-in on the other side to allow you that, I mean, it's tough, but there's no business that is not tough.
Great. So Tope, there's construction, government projects, now a lot more private projects.
Yeah.
We have a lot of competition. You have the likes of those international so-called companies that are in the country, and people would rather just pick that name, right? But there's also a movement, set currently, being that us in Nigeria, Nigerians can make it happen.
Yeah.
And I've seen it already, started like crossing that line. So within construction, you have the likes of JB, you have the likes of C&D, you have the likes of LLA, you have the likes of. What do you think? First of all, do you think it's possible? Nigerian indigenous construction company, same quality, right? Do you think it's possible? And how do you think that can be put in the heads of those that originally sort of, because it all starts from the point of, it doesn't start from when the construction has started.
Yeah.
It starts from when they started. In fact, it starts from when we don't even know that there's a project going on.
Absolutely.
It's the guys that are thinking about it, the architects, the orchestrators, or the project owners. How do we get into the heads of those people, and what are you guys doing differently to be able to penetrate, so to speak?
So absolutely, it's possible. But we have to understand that everything is about process. You see, these organizations that we refer to, they didn't start yesterday. Both in Nigeria and wherever they're coming from. They are coming with institutional knowledge. They are coming with capacities.
Structure.
They are coming with structure. They are coming with things that we don't know. So first of all, you need to stoop to learn. We have to be realistic that they have gone far, and what we need to try to do is to learn from them so we can leapfrog and also be able to do. So my first response is that yes, we can do it, but we have to learn. We have to learn from those who have gone ahead of us, and see what they're doing, see how they've done it, so that we can do the same. That is the first. The second is that we have to give ourselves the opportunity. There's nothing that is learned just by reading. Everything that you learn, you must learn by doing. And in doing, you must make mistakes. And in making mistakes, then you learn how not to do it. There's none of these organizations that you have listed or those that we've not listed that have not gone through their process of learning. Learning is tough, it's hard. You must have your stripes. You must have your
the easiest.
You must
the
have,
easiest learning is even in the experience.
Yes, you must have wounds. You must have and that comes from being given the opportunity. So while we as the companies must put ourselves to learning, the clients and the potential clients and the industry must have the disposition that we must give ourselves the opportunity. It must be deliberate. You don't build local capacity by chance. You build local capacity by being deliberate, saying, look, anything of this size must be given to a local company. And even when we're giving the bigger sizes to the bigger ones, we must, drag the local guys along as partners. That is the only way you can get knowledge transfer, you can get technology transfer. So it has to be deliberate, and it has to be an industry-wide, intention, move. Everyone must be a part of it. And bearing in mind that, yes, it could potentially lead to some, maybe, losses here and there, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're going to build a better community. There will be more revenue in the country, more the economic impact. If anything I do, as of today, we're 100% Nigerian. Everybody who works with us is Nigerian. Yes, we might have some consultants who come in to provide guidance and support, but ultimately, everything that we earn stays here. So the ripple effect of that is something that not just the government now, but the entire industry, the entire country is a movement. Is a Buy Nigeria movement, and that is both in products and in services that we produce. We're not perfect, but when you identify those who have the sincerity of purpose, then we must be willing to give them a chance.
Good. So I mean, just to cut in from what you said. Like the Nigerian Institute of Architects, for instance, some of the architects came together and said, look, I was privileged to be working for one of the top consultants then, where they built, where they put together an association, Association of Consulting Architects of Nigeria. The idea was not to compete with the institute, but the idea was to tackle such issues where we talk about collaboration. So you don't have a foreign architect just coming to Nigeria. You just hear this building, there is 20 stories, it's one South African architect. So they worked with the policymakers to say, like, look, those guys can't just come in and take a project. They must work with a Nigerian. And I realized that with that, some of those companies have been able to learn. It's just like how you said, work together, partners, so to speak. It's typically illegal to do it, so they have to work with a resident sort of architect. So we got to learn a lot of those things. So I see that with those that are providing the policies for the associations and even with the companies that within the country, we have to work on that to be able to. They pushed it. They really pushed it until it happened. And now it's almost like they can report you if you just come in and you have a foreign architect's name on the board. So I think that will help. But the part that I like to ask you, because you're an employer of labor, this is very technical. So do we have the skill? So this is not you. This is Nigeria.
Right.
Do we have the skill to be able to take things to that level? I've met a couple of people that have worked with the likes of some of these companies, Nigerian guys, and I can see that, I could see that the capacity is there. So, but you'll be able to tell us better because you employ them every day. You have the technical guys come in. Do you think the capacity is there?
We could do better. The capacity is not there to the extent that we need it, but there's enough raw materials for us to work with. And everyone must just pay their part and be ready to give it what it takes. And my view is always to have a balance. Where there is a gap, engage the gap externally or wherever for a period, but be very deliberate to put people who can learn from them with them. So that way, if this person is here for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever, he has at least 5, 10 20 people who have passed through him, who that knowledge that he carries has also been transferred to them. So that way we're now, building the capacity, because there's a struggle with capacity for sure, but we can't shy away from it. If we have chosen to be in the sector, then we must contribute to the growth of the sector. So that means, like in our organization, we have an internship program from, undergrads to grads, bringing them in, trying to take them through the process. What then happens is that maybe if you bring 10 people, in 3-4 years, you still have like 3 or 4 of them. 6 or 7 have gone.
Yeah, I mean, whichever the way, you're also training. You're training those that are entering into the industry.
Yes, and then so you reiterate, you iterate again, you do it again. We do it every year. We have this internship program every year, so we bring in roughly 10 to 20 people every year at that level. And they go through the process, they go back to school, some are graduates, and, so we're constantly trying to build that into just our little part. We can't do everything, but just saying that everybody's doing that, it will grow the industry.
All right, great. So recently there's been this issue with Forex fluctuation multiple and inflation. I mean, I had it in my own little way. I know what I had to do, talk to subscribers and have difficult conversations. But with construction, that must have startled a couple of contracts.
Absolutely.
How did you handle it? Because these are the kind of things that in Nigeria we go through, and people just don't know what we're going through as business people. So it's important that like how, because you guys are like the direct, it's almost like the direct impact. Yes, we might look at developers and say, how are you handling it from the point of subscribers and all that, but the truth is that where the thing is really happening is on the construction. So you see that reinforcement, things have moved. Does it make you change the way you put up your contracts? Does it, this was different. I don't think it has ever happened like together like that. So how did you handle that?
So that conversation is not a technical conversation. It's a social one. It's interpersonal. It's about it's negotiation. It's discussion, and everybody could see it. But yes, there were difficult stakeholders who would say, no, I don't want to hear it. But look, guys, this thing was 400 when we started, is now 1 point something million. Come on, let's sit down. So there was a lot of give and take. Okay, in some cases we're like, okay, you bring some of these materials, we'll fix it, we'll renegotiate the terms. At the end of the day, our disposition is always, how do we deliver? How do we finish what we have started? As much as possible, we don't want to leave things half done or abandoned. We want to help in whatever way. So we're very flexible. Okay, this is what we signed, but we can look at it like this. Let's sit down, let's discuss, let's negotiate. Some of the project had to stop. Some had to be suspended for a couple of months, some years.
We couldn't even, at some point, you couldn't even determine what
where
the
it was
difference
going to.
was. Yeah, so, and you can't even have that conversation and then have it
and
again.
then have it again. There were some people that I spoke to. I said, let us do this. Let's restructure this contract in such a way that we'll not be having this conversation every 2 months. So we came up with some ideas on how to do that. Some listened. It's taught us a lot. We've learned a lot. There's certain kind of contracts I won't sign again. From the lessons we learned. But you keep learning. A couple
of things you will add. Like for us now, on offer letters, when you say force majeure, your mind always goes to some disaster or maybe COVID, but now this has become a
force majeure,
official.
Yes.
In fact, right now you write it as one of the examples.
Yes.
That Forex, and if it moves beyond a certain point. So it's a learning curve. It may almost make you want to give up, but you just have to just keep on looking at it and trying to see how you can, push and all that. It takes me to my next question. There's been a very deliberate. You've been very deliberate about the industry, deliberate about being in those rooms where they're having these conversations. I don't think I've seen any construction company. Let's leave the fact that it's an ecosystem and there are other things you can be doing there, but that has been that involved. Is there a reason for that?
So you've said it already. If you're not in the room, decisions will be taken over your head, and they will come and impact you eventually. So you might as well be there and get a chance to at least make a contribution. If it's not taken on board, well, you tried. So definitely there's been a deliberate intention to participate. It's very easy to just stay, on the sidelines and complain. But it's tough to get in the playing field and try to make your own voice heard. And that actually has some risk as well, because when you start talking, you become a target sometimes. But we've chosen this path and would continue to drive it.
Good. So for me, I mean, it's one of the things that is encouraging. Like I said, there are going to be more conversations with probably people with like minds, but different sectors, trying to have that very, like I said, some of the conversations we just have over drinks. You will be surprised, the comments, and just wait until this one goes through and you understand what I'm saying. You'll be surprised the little things that we say that some of these people pick and say, no, I need to hear more, and that's why I'm just trying to encourage this. But you've traveled. I mean, you told me once about a course in Harvard and how construction and housing and low-cost housing was like you could see it and it could really expand your mind, and it really blessed me. You might not have known, but that conversation really, like, I just heard it and I was like, look, they're doing something, we might be doing something right, but if we can constantly just check in on what's going on globally. And that takes me to the global question. We're also trying to go, around Africa and try to also understand how structure is globally. So, I mean, panning from that conversation, did it spur you to do things in a different way? Did it spur you to look at other markets? I mean, how was it? How was that experience for you?
So the course was on affordable housing, and being that it was in Harvard, it meant that a lot of their case studies and lines of, thinking and teaching was very American, so that meant that there were many things that were not directly applicable, but all that I was doing for those days on the course was trying to pick things and say, okay, in our context, we might not have it like this, but how can we tweak this to be able to achieve this?
That and try to see
so that was all that I did throughout.
Yes, nice.
And in doing that, of course, when you come back with some of those things, they take years before you can see the impact. But we'll be working on that. But the other part of your question is that it then made me start thinking, okay, can we make this thing global? Can we be beyond, Nigeria? And then that led to a conversation. Okay, are there other African countries where they are maybe more structured, more advanced, that some of these American concepts and models can fit in?
Yes.
And we started exploring some of those. But the one that a few of the other people that I was there with started exploring, which I've not, is that they then decided, why can't we just, operate here in the US as well? And so for some reason, even though I like the idea, I've not been able to implement on that because I feel like there's still so much to do here. And, trying to start to do that would be a distraction. You would actually almost have to, slow down on whatever you're doing locally.
Yes.
But I don't think we've gotten to that point that I can, pause, because we're heading somewhere.
Yes,
it's like the plane is. We're not yet in cruise control. We can't. You can't leave it now. The plane is taking off.
Yes.
It's not the time that the pilot, takes his hands off the steering. When we get to the cruising altitude,
Yes.
we can leave the thing cruising and then go and explore other locations. So that's my own personal take. But there are some of my, people that I know who have taken that leap, and I doff my hat to them, and I hope that it works out well, and so that when we're ready, we can also learn from them.
Learn from them.
Yeah.
Okay, so lastly, talk about the key thing here is one of the things I've been trying to push is collaboration. It's an industry that is I like what has happened. It's evolving. Designs are beginning to look different. Implementation is beginning to be more specific to what you put on the board, so to speak. There are better designs. There's redevelopment. There's see how Lekki is changing. Look at how VI is changing. The old is going down. The new is going up. In your opinion, what's your take on collaboration? What do you have to say about collaboration if you needed to advise on collaboration? Because I feel we can go further with collaboration, and different people just have different, even just being in a room with other professionals, you will learn some things just by what they say. So we've been in different rooms. The recent one too, that one just even blew my mind because I didn't even know that was going on anywhere. So I feel it's important. I feel not everybody jives towards it, but it's very important. So what's your take on collaboration?
So our organization has 5 core values. Excellence. The second one is collaboration. Then there's integrity, innovation, and leadership. So collaboration is key in my own disposition to
true.
life.
Most companies don't have collaboration.
Is key in my disposition to life, and so I am usually keen to look for opportunities to collaborate. But I have found that not everybody sees it like that. So the first challenge in thinking of collaboration is to find like minds. And when you find like minds, you set the ground rules and some checks and balances here, and then you start your journey. And I'm always of the opinion that if you want to collaborate, start small and then let it grow. In starting small, you learn you know about yourselves, you know about each other's dispositions, and then as you grow, and then collaboration doesn't mean it's not marriage. It's collaboration. You can collaborate on this project. Everybody does their own thing.
Yes.
You can, there can be a giant thing that you want to do, and you're like, if I do this thing alone, it will be a struggle.
Exactly.
Can we set up an SPV to work on this? The world works on collaboration.
Yes.
It's just the way it is. When you look at an airplane, most of the things in the airplanes it was a function of collaboration. Somebody else made the engine, another person made the seats, that's collaboration. But what we see a lot is that we want to try and do everything.
Yes.
And there's a limit to what you can do alone.
Yes.
There's a limit in capacity, there's a limit in competence, there's a limit in reach. Because what 2 people can drag, 1 person probably cannot drag it alone.
Yes.
So just based on that principle, we try. Some have failed. It doesn't mean that it works all the time, but because it's a value, it's a core value. The fact that you failed once doesn't mean you'll not try it again.
The fact
you
that
just
you even
tweak it.
tried it because it's a core value shows that you have made a move forward.
Yeah, so you just keep trying until you get it right. But ultimately, we need to collaborate.
Super. I'd like to end at that note. Tope, thank you so much. We're definitely going to call you in for some of the people you know, so it's going to be very comfortable and even more exciting sort of conversations. Diverse, more of like a diverse room, and we're all discussing towards the same goal, so to speak, trying to share from everybody's views. Well, thank you so much for coming over. Thank you for even, it was short notice, but I'm sure you guys will start seeing things coming out from this. God bless. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.